For our next set of notes, we're actually not going to be writing in our journals. Instead, we're going to make a foldable with a piece of construction paper. So at the table, you should see some construction paper. You're going to need to go ahead and grab one piece. We're going to fold it in half, hamburger style, except we're not quite going to fold it to the edge. We're going to leave about an inch or so right here. Okay, enough space to write some words. All right, when you've got it in the right spot, go ahead and fold it down and crease it. Okay, and so it should look like this. And we have one flap that comes up. Okay, what we're going to do is actually compare physical changes and chemical changes. So we want to have two separate sections on our foldable. So with a pair of scissors, you're going to cut only the top piece in half. Okay, and you don't have to measure it to be exact. You can kind of try to eyeball it, okay, as close to half as possible. All right. So now you should have where you have one flap on one side and then one flap on the other. Okay. We're going to go ahead and label the two types of changes. If you have a darker color of construction paper, like right now I'm working with purple, you might want to use a marker, okay, in order to make sure that your writing shows up. All right, so I'm going to use a black marker. On the left-hand side, on the bottom, we're going to write the words physical change. Okay. And then on the right side, we're going to write the words chemical change. Okay. Just like in the last set of notes where we were talking about different properties, and they could be a physical property or a chemical property, this is kind of similar. Okay, we're talking about the properties changing. It's either going to be a physical change or a chemical change. In this video in Pit Stop B, we're going to talk about the physical changes. And then in the next video in Pit Stop C, we'll talk about the chemical changes. Okay. At your table, you should also have a little strip of paper that has two pictures on it. Right? There's one picture is of a piece of firewood, like a log being chopped in half. And the other is a picture of a campfire where the fire is actually burning. Go ahead and cut that in half. We're going to use these as our examples. Okay, we want to separate the pictures. One picture is representing a physical change, and one picture is representing a chemical change. Since in this video we're only talking about physical changes, we're actually only going to worry about the picture where the wood is being chopped in half. Okay, this is an example we're going to use for physical change. So go ahead and glue that kind of towards the top center of the physical changes side. Alright, so once that's glued down, we're going to go ahead and talk about what we see here. So we know that we're starting out, it looks like we're starting out with a piece of firewood. Okay, and we see an axe chopping it in half, and then what we're left with is two pieces of firewood. And we call that a physical change because no new substance is actually being created. Okay, so if we chop it in half, we still have firewood. That substance did not change. What changed was maybe the size. Now it's cut in half. The shape, okay, but it's still firewood. There have not been any changes to the substance itself. So we're going to describe a physical change right below here. Okay, so we're going to say that a physical change is a change in size, shape, or state. And what we mean by state is a change in the state of matter. So in the last example I talked about ice turning into water, or vice versa. If water is frozen and it turns into ice. Changing from a solid to a liquid, or from a liquid to a solid, is a change in the state of matter. But technically, that substance is still H2O, right? It's still two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. It hasn't actually changed the substance. So that's considered a physical change. We can also add no new substance is formed. So with the ice, we still have H2O. In this case, we still have a piece of firewood. Okay, now we have two pieces, but it's still firewood. The substance has not changed. We're going to open it up to the inside. Okay, and now we have two sections. This top part up here, you're going to leave blank. You're going to do a card sort at an independent station later in the week, and that's where you're going to add some more examples. Right now we're going to fill out the bottom part with some examples together. Okay, so another example would be, so we already kind of used the cutting or the chopping. Okay, another example would be if something was boiling to evaporation. Very similar to the liquid turning to a solid or the solid turning to a liquid. If we had water boiling on a stove and it evaporated into gas vapor, that's the same thing. It's just a state change. It's still considered H2O. So here at the top I'm going to say boiling water evaporating. Okay, we want to be sure we're only writing on the physical changes side. Alright, so boiling water evaporating, and then go ahead and we're going to draw a couple pictures here. So draw like a pot of water. Okay, here's my pot. Remember, I'm not an art teacher. Okay, here's the water. It's on a burner here on the stove. Okay, and now we have some bubbles coming up because it's turning into water vapor or gas. Alright. The next example we're going to do is where we're changing the size and the shape, again, kind of similar to cutting wood. We're going to say slicing a pizza. Okay, so you could have the whole piece of pizza, and then if you've taken a slice out of it, okay, that's just cutting or changing the shape. Okay, so then there's our pizza. Put some pepperonis on our pizza. Okay, and there's our piece that's been taken out. The last one I'm actually going to show you. So, for example, if we have a piece of paper, okay, we could crumple the paper up. Okay, it's still paper, so the substance didn't change. Another way to think about a physical change is that you could easily undo it. I could change my mind and I could uncrumple the paper. It may not be perfect, but it's pretty much back to the way it started. Okay, I could also rip or tear the paper. Okay, if I tear off the corner, I've changed the size, I've changed the shape, but it's still paper, and technically I could put it back and I would be back to my original piece. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw like our torn piece of paper over here. So here's our paper. And then we're going to draw like a jagged edge, like we're tearing it off, okay, or ripping it off. So tearing paper. That's going to be our third example of a physical change. Again, leave the top piece up here. Go ahead and leave that blank, and you'll add more examples after you do a card sort at the next independent station.